Welcome to the second to last group discussion of this one being close knit. I am Izzy Almazan,
I'm Marissa Castaneda.
and I hope you enjoy our spicy PowerPoint. So,
All right.
we are starting with
First,
the first question.
we have, as a group, find out the rights of LGBTQ people in the US and discuss the differences and similarities between the rights of LGBTQ in the US and those in Japan. Cite your sources.
Oh man. So, going off of the stuff that I found for me, I did notice that there was quite similarities between LGBTQ in the U.S. and Japan as far as domestic partnership rights. The U.S. also has certain programs in municipalities and private institutions where they're allowed the same thing, where like they can go visit their partner when they're in the hospital, they're sick, getting the benefits of the insurance companies. Um, they both do face discrimination. However, a little bit like Japan, like it's still like a generational thing. Kind of what I was talking to Marissa about earlier. America seems to acknowledge it a little bit more, but they also face discrimination. Um, as far as adoptions and such, America is more accepting of it. However, only states such as Arkansas and Florida are against gays and transgenders adopting a child. So,
Yeah, I have some just statistics to throw in here.
mm-hmm.
So in 2019, there's an organization called OCED or OCED. I'm not sure
Mm-hmm.
how exactly how to say that.
Mm-hmm.
They took a survey in Japan, and they found out that only 45% of parents would accept their children if they came out as LGBTQ.
Mm-hmm.
And in the U.S., uh, suicide rates went down 15% when same-sex marriage was passed. So there's a correlation between suicide rates and then being gay, trans, LGBT.
Absolutely. And especially with them progressing in the states a little bit quicker, I can definitely see how that rate would go down.
Yeah, a lot more.
Yeah. So, okay. Um, going on to number 2, list 3 important life lessons learned in this lesson as a group. Um, essentially,
So
sorry.
I can go first,
Go
or do
ahead.
you want to go
No,
first?
you go ahead. You go first.
Okay, so first we just came up with obviously just don't judge people. So regardless of gender and orientation, it's just everybody has like their own I guess like story to themselves and like the struggles that they go through, so it's just best to not judge.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Mm.
Absolutely, because you definitely don't know someone's life until you've actually taken a walk in their shoes. Um, the second one that we actually looked at is regardless of gender, you can be a great parent. I mean, obviously, with Rinko, even though like he was going through the process of becoming a woman, he actually deemed to be considered a great mother, compared to Tomo's
Mhm.
mother Hiromi, who really wasn't that great of a parent.
And then lastly, we have just try to be a good parent overall. Just gambate
頑張ってく
through it
ださい
all,
よ. Yeah.
and gambate kudasai. So just try to understand your children and just kind of just see where Tomo's mother had these struggles with her priorities.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, it started with her own mother who went through her husband leaving her and just it's this generational trauma. And like she just kind of took it out on Tomo because she didn't have structure growing up. Tomo's mother didn't have structure growing up, so she didn't know how to give that type of familial structure to
Mm-hmm.
Tomo.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. Definitely notice that like if you have a positive family environment, you're more likely to have a positive adulthood, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay, going on to the next question.
Okay. What are the group's reflections about Japanese people and community that show less acceptance towards the LGBTQ community?
Okay. I'm just gonna get this off my chest like right now. But
Go ahead.
I was absolutely furious with the outlook of it, especially Kai's mother. Um, she definitely was the type of person that kind of similar to how things are in America, where they were against anything that wasn't considered normal to her. But it's okay. She got her karma because of Tomo-chan doing liquid soap at her face. Best cinematic in history. But going back to my less bias, and as Marissa and I kind of talked about it before we got into this discussion we're in now, I think we both could agree that it's based on generational things. I mean, we're living through a generational thing here in the U.S. where, like, I know that when I came out bisexual to my family, they were more accepting of it compared to like my grandmother. So like seeing that probably in Japan is the same way. Like people our age are probably more accepting of it compared to like their parents or their grandparents.
Yeah, there's obviously a generational gap, and I've had the same experiences as well, where obviously younger people are more accepting, regardless if you're coming out with your orientation or gender issues. It's something that the older generation doesn't necessarily understand because they don't have a lot of experience with it. However, that's not everybody.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's just that generational gap that I don't see it like closing, but I just think there's gonna go eventually there will be some sort of understanding. Is the best way to place it.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Okay. Next question. Um, discuss the major conflict in this film. Was the conflict solved, and how can you solve the conflict differently?
Main conflict was that Rinko wanted to be a mother. However, uh, it was because Tomo's mother was absent and she was living with her uncle. So I'm gonna ask you, Izzy, how would you solve the conflict differently?
Honestly, I realized that Tomo ended up going back with her mom to kind of give her a second chance, but if it was in this role, why couldn't they just kind of switch off, like, the same way America, like, divorced parents do? Like, she could stay some days over at
Yes.
Rinko and her uncle's house, and then her going back to her mother. So maybe if her mom did somehow go back to her old ways of, like, being away for a while, she still could go back to that house, which I also assume she did, but you don't know.
Yeah, it's a very open ended ending. But I also agree with you. I really would have liked for her to still have for them all to just have like come together and form like a functioning relationship.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I agree with that. I definitely do. And I still shed tears for Rinko though, so I hope Rinko gets to be able to be a mom someday somehow.
Yes, me too.
Okay. This next portion I'll just explain because on my end, but we're just going to be comparing the 3 sneak peek answers that we had and discussing our our views of it through the cultural filters. So we can go with the first slide. If you want to go start off with explaining on that one, Marissa.
Okay. So on my end, I have so my sneak peek thing was that I said that the son was missing PE, but he was going to all his other classes, and we had that the same, and also that the mother seemed to not want to think. She basically didn't really want to say or give her own reasons. She just assumed that Lincoln had his own reasons for that, and we both assumed that he was also getting bullied.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, yeah, I can agree with that one. for sure. We kind of share the same brain cell on that scene.
Yeah, they're very, very similar.
Very similar. Um, moving forward with scene two, we kind of also had a same shared brain cell, essentially with the whole conversation between Tomo and Rinko, and essentially that Tomo needs to not allow her anger to get the best of her and to simply just kind of hold it in. Um, like obviously it was some sort of big controversial issue that happened that we didn't know about, but it could be inferred obviously that something upset her greatly to have her like cause a scene. So
Yeah, because they mention the scene, and then you can feel not necessarily the tension, but the seriousness of the scene overall. That something had obviously happened.
mm-hmm.
So to anger her.
Yeah, which like she had every right to feel that way. Honestly, it's a valid
Mm-hmm.
feeling. So okay.
So the oh
no, you go ahead. You go ahead.
so the last scene we did have a different standpoint to where I said that she was living with two men, and Izzy said that she just assumed that Tomo was living with her uncle while they were away.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I first saw this scene with my, I guess, cultural filter, I can't speak. I assumed that Rinko was just somebody. I didn't know that this movie was going to have transgender topics in it, so I assumed that Rinko was just somebody who was gay and just preferred feminine clothing.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how I took this scene. So I assumed that the Child Protective Services had somehow found out about this type of quote environment,
Mm-hmm.
and they deemed it unfit.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, that was my take on it.
See, for me, like I said, like you said, I just assumed that that they were calling on her because she was living with her uncle. And when I saw Rinko, like for me, if I see someone dressed feminine, I just automatically see them as female. So I didn't think anything of it. But like I said, I just assumed maybe like in Japan, like it's weird for a young girl to be living with her uncle, maybe for like creepy pedo reasons, but I didn't get that vibe from him. But maybe someone like turned them in for that. So
Yeah.
that's basically what I got from it. But most of the time we just share the same brain cell.
Yes, we do.
We do. We really do. But other than that, this movie actually was one of my favorites. Like I said, the Dish Liquid Soap wins a 10 out of 10 in Japanese cinema. Would I watch this movie
Yes,
again?
it does.
Would I watch this movie again? Absolutely. There were some slow parts. I also can appreciate that Rinko called those things that she made pee-pee socks, even though it makes other people uncomfortable.
Oh, it was hilarious.
It was. So, do you have anything else you want to add, Marissa?
I think so. I really enjoyed this movie also. I liked the topics that it had.
Same. So, all right. Well, we're gonna end this group discussion, and we'll see you at the last one.